It's been a little bit over 2.5 hours since South Carolina suffered an 8-2 loss to Clemson here on Sunday night at Founders Park, resulting in a sweep for the Tigers, and it's the third time in the last 4 seasons that the Gamecocks have been swept by their in-state rival. And as I'm thinking of a neat way to open this recap video, the only thing I can really think of is, how did this happen, right? And I think today it's very simple. The offense just didn't hit enough. I think that has kind of been a microcosm of the weekend in general, and today was no different. South Carolina just did not have any offensive production. That was until the 8th inning, where the Gamecocks finally got on the board with 2 runs. Jace Woida hit an RBI single to get the Gamecocks their first run, and then Nolan Naraki grounded into what looked like it was just going to be an inning-ending double play, but the throw from second base went wide. It was a throwing error. Naraki's on first. He's actually heading towards second. But the problem was, and the Gamecocks eventually got a run on the board because of it to make it 4-2 at the time. But the problem was Jace Woida, slid into the base path, I think it was, right at the defender, and that caused the throw to go wild. So it was interference after a long review. And that really ended South Carolina's chances to maybe tie the game or do something more. Who knows what happens at that point? But the point is, this offense just did not have it at all this weekend. When you score 6 runs over 3 games and you're not scoring consistently at all. I mean, think about it this way. In every game South Carolina played this weekend, there was only 1 inning apiece in each game where South Carolina scored runs. Other than that, goose eggs and zeros throughout. Only 5 hits apiece in each game. I know Clemson didn't necessarily, and we'll get to them in a second, I know they didn't necessarily hit the best either this weekend, but at the end of the day, they came through with more timely hits than South Carolina. I think that's ultimately what made the difference, because the pitching and the defense were not the issue this weekend for South Carolina. After getting a really good outing from Jake McCoy on Saturday in Greenville, Dylan Eskew was phenomenal tonight. I mean, you really can't ask for much more than what he did. 6 innings of 1-run ball, 7 strikeouts, 4 walks, and he really did a good job of commanding the zone and kind of keeping Clemson off balance. Outside of the 1 run they got, that was really it for most of the night. And this was a 1-0 game for most of the night until Clemson kind of broke it open in the late going, because between Ashton Crowther, Parker Marlott, and Brendan Sweeney, 7 runs were given up. And there's been a bullpen that's been very good all season long, but tonight just didn't have it, and that's going to happen. And you're going to go, honestly, just in general, you're going to go through these stretches where the offense isn't hitting and the bullpen doesn't have it, and maybe a starter doesn't have it. The good news is for South Carolina, everything else has been pretty good besides the offense. And look, I know people are out there saying, we're not naive to it. Monty Lee, people want Monty Lee fired. People want this to happen, that to happen, a million different things to happen. You can make all the changes you want, but at the end of the day, your bats just aren't hitting. And it's baseball. That's how the game works, right? It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, right? So, teams are going to go through struggles all the time. South Carolina's just going through some right now with the offense, but obviously these 3 games are definitely a lot bigger and, way more under a microscope because they're against Clemson. And that's, it's something you got to figure out here soon, because you got SEC play in less than 2 weeks, and, you're facing good pitching like this every single weekend. So, again, still a lot of season left for South Carolina, but you really do have to get this offense figured out, because if you can't score runs, you're just not going to win games. And we saw that this weekend. So the Gamecocks will be back in action for 2 midweek games this week. Starting on Tuesday night, they will host Davidson at 6:30 p.m. on SEC Network Plus. Paul Mainieri has not revealed who his starting pitcher will be for that game. It wasn't asked tonight in post-game press conferences, obviously, just because there's a lot of other topics to discuss with the game at hand and the series at hand being what it was. And then Wednesday, the Gamecocks will travel to the Citadel in Charleston, and we'll have all live updates and coverage on GamecockCentral.com throughout the week, and then we'll get ready for a weekend series against Morehead State here at Founders Park. So that is going to do it for now. After the Gamecocks were swept by Clemson, and once again losing 8-2 here on Sunday night in the series finale. So for GamecockCentral.com, I'm Jack Veltri.